In an ancient cave in the middle of the mountains lived a blind man who had lost his sight years ago. His only profession was making ropes, weaving them with great skill and selling them to passing merchants or shepherds. One quiet night, he heard a woman's voice calling him at the entrance to the cave. He did not hear her footsteps but heard a voice saying, "Do you want to see the light again?" The man asked her, "Who are you?" She looked at him and said, "A woman has come to restore to you what was taken from you." The man said, "If you are a witch, then go on your way. I have neither time nor money." The woman replied, "I have no magic and I am not looking for money. I am a woman who knows how to restore sight, if that is what you want." The man asked, "And what is the price?" She said, "That you marry me and do not ask me about my origins or my family." The man said, surprised, "What would drive a woman to marry a blind man in a cave who owns nothing in this world?" She said, "I need a man who does not ask about the night or dig in the shadows." The man repeated a little, then said, "I have nothing to lose. If you are honest, then do it." She approached him and put her hands over his eyes. Then she whispered words that he did not understand, and she ordered him to remain seated until the sun rose. She opened his eyes so that he could hear her voice again. The man remained seated with his eyes closed until morning came, and he heard her whisper, "Open your eyes." The man opened his eyes, and his sight returned to him once again. He saw the light after years. From the darkness, he kept looking around, not believing that his sight had returned again. He looked around, but he did not find the woman. He heard her voice from afar saying, "I have returned to you with what you lost, and I will return tonight." At night, the woman returned as she promised. She came in a long black dress, with only her face visible. She sat at the entrance of the cave. The man looked at her, and she was extremely beautiful. He thought she was ugly, but what he saw made him wonder about her. The woman looked at him and said, "I have fulfilled my promise to you, and your sight has returned. So fulfill my conditions." The man said, "I will fulfill them, but before I do, tell me, are you human?" The woman said, "I did not promise you honesty in everything, but I promised you that you would not ask questions. If you want light, leave what is in the darkness where it is." The man was silent, then extended his hand to her and said, "What do you want?" He married her. She lived with him in the cave. No witness came, and no one attended their wedding. But she said, "This is enough for me. There is nothing between us but a covenant of words." Since that day she has been staying with him, taking care of his affairs. And she did what any wife would do, but sometimes she would disappear late at night and return before dawn. He would ask her where she was going. Days passed and God blessed him with 3 daughters from her, all of them beautiful, and nothing strange appeared on them. The cave was filled with a life he had never known before, and for the first time he felt that he was not alone, but something small kept worrying him. If he woke up late at night, he would not find her beside him. Sometimes he would hear a soft rustling at the entrance of the cave. Someone would go out without a sound and return before he opened his eyes. He tried to ignore the matter, but something began to weigh on his heart and doubt began to wake him from his sleep. One day, an old man from the village died, and his funeral was at night. When the man went with the funeral procession to the graves, he was surprised to see his wife at the graves. He did not know what brought her there at that time, but when he noticed that he saw her, she disappeared as if she had not existed. After they finished the burial, the man returned to his cave. Doubt began to creep into his mind, and that night he didn't sleep and decided to watch her. When night came, he pretended to sleep and closed his eyes. He felt her get up quietly, wrapping herself in her black dress and leaving without making a sound. He waited a few moments until she left, then got up behind her, hiding between the mountains. While walking behind her, he saw something that almost made his mind go crazy. Her steps didn't touch the ground, but rather walked in the air. He walked behind her, not believing what he was seeing. Then she took a path that no one took at night until she stopped at the cemetery. He hid behind a nearby rock, watching her, his heart beating violently. He saw her bending over one of the new graves that hadn't been there for days. She placed her hands on the dirt and spoke words that he didn't understand, so the dirt began to move. Someone was digging from inside, and the grave opened. She got down inside. He approached until he reached near the opening of the grave, and when he looked inside, the surprise was that he saw her inside the grave, and behold, she bent down and planted her hands in the chest of the dead person and left something and began to eat. The man's eyes widened and his body trembled. He took a step back, and the stones almost slipped from under his feet, but she did not notice. The scene was too much for his heart to bear, but he remained still, not breathing or thinking, just watching what the mind could not believe. Suddenly she turned, looked at him and stared at him. She gasped in fright and ran quickly away from the cemetery towards the mountain. She did not turn around until she disappeared from his sight. The man returned to the cave, not comprehending what he saw. He sat not knowing if what he saw was a dream, a nightmare or reality. He did not know if she was a genie, a witch or a demon, but he was certain that she was not human and had not returned to the cave since that night. At dawn, when he went out to inspect the place, he found a small thing wrapped up at the entrance of the cave and placed on a stone. He took it and opened it and found inside it a piece of paper written on it. "Your trust, my daughters, do not ask or search for me. If the secret is known, the covenant will be broken." Days passed in which he did not see her face or hear her voice. She left behind only the 3 little girls who did not understand anything and opened their eyes to a confused father and an absent mother. As the days passed, he began to raise his daughters alone. They were innocent and nothing of their mother appeared on them. Despite his fear, he loved them and treated each one as if she were the last person left to him in the world. But things did not remain calm. He heard the sounds of footsteps, and sometimes he imagined that there was a warm breath passing by him. One night, while the girls were sleeping, he saw smoke seeping from a crack in the cave wall. He approached and was surprised that the crack, which he thought was just a crack in the rock, was a narrow passageway. He entered it carefully and crawled inside until it widened a little. Then he found himself in a small room. In the middle of the room was a black stone with his name carved on it. On the floor were remnants of cloth from a black dress, the same dress his wife was wearing. He quickly retreated and exited the crack and closed it with stones. That night, he slept sitting next to his daughters, but when he woke up, he found a piece of paper on his chest that said, "Do not open what you do not understand. The girls are a trust, but what contains blood is not for you alone." Years passed and the girls grew up, and they did not know anything about their mother. The father did not tell them anything about her. He only said that she had died. One rainy night, he heard the voices of his daughters whispering, so he approached without realizing it. The eldest was saying, "We always have the same dream. My mother calls us from afar and says, 'Come to the cemetery, come.' And we have taken your right." The man's heart trembled at what he heard, and he went out towards the village looking for an old sheik he knew. He was a man of few words but full of knowledge. He reached the sheik and asked him what if a man had children from a woman who was not human. The sheik looked at him for a long time and then said the blood does not disappear but sometimes it is delayed in appearing, and the girls who are descendants of the jinn, if they live among humans, their matter appears at the first loss or first anger or first death. Then he gave him strange water and told him to try it with them, and if there is something in them it will appear. The man returned to the cave with a new fear in his heart. He sat in front of the fire and the 3 girls were asleep. He looked at them for a long time and then whispered to himself, "If one of them has non-human blood then I must know who she is." The next day he put the water the sheik had given him in a stream, then took them to the stream and told them to wash their hands, and I will go collect some firewood. Then he stood watching from a distance. The middle one washed her hand and nothing appeared on it. The eldest laughed and got wet with water like a lock. As for the youngest, she looked at the water and did not touch it. Instead she took a step back then looked around. As if someone was watching her, The father knew that her mother's blood was on her, and he began to watch her. The next day, the eldest woke him up screaming, "Our younger sister is not there." The father went out looking for her around the cave, and everywhere there was no sign of her. At night, when he returned to the cave worried, he found the youngest daughter there, sleeping in her place as if she had never been absent. He woke her up and said to her, "Where have you been?" She said, looking at him without blinking, "I was with my mother." He approached her and said, "How is that? Your mother is dead." She said, "My mother does not die." The father was speechless, unable to speak. That night, he heard light footsteps in the cave. He got up from his place to follow the sound. He went out of the cave and found the youngest walking towards the graves in the same way he had seen her mother. He kept walking behind her until she reached the graves. There, he saw her entering an open grave. He stopped and heard her voice saying, "Come here, Mom, it's time." The man climbed the rock and stood looking, but suddenly he was unable to breathe. Then he lost consciousness. When he woke up, he found himself inside the grave. He didn't know how that happened. He quickly got out of the grave and returned to the old sheik in the village, his mind filled with 1,000 unanswered questions. He began to feel that his life was no longer his own, but rather in the hands of a power he could not see. He told the sheik everything he had seen and happened to him. The sheik gave him an old book to summon the woman and find out from her what she wanted from him. The man took the book and went to his cave, gathered his daughters around him, then opened the book with trembling hands. He found in it stories about genies who take on human forms to live among people and give birth to mixed offspring from them, and about ancient covenants between genies and humans, and about the price of remaining between the two worlds. He realized that his wife was nothing but a genie and that his daughters carried in their blood that mixed nature. He began to read with a trembling voice and began to feel strong. A stranger crept into his body, and he heard her voice in his ear saying, "Didn't I tell you one day not to ask about me or my family? You have broken the covenant." Then the genie appeared before him, not as she was, a beautiful wife in a black dress, but as she really is. He said with a trembling voice, "What do you want from my daughters?" She said, "The girls are no longer yours alone. In their blood is an ancient covenant, and you must hand it over as it is." He approached her and said, "Why did you come to me in the first place, and why me?" She said, "I am looking for an eye that sees without asking, and a heart that loves without conditions. I found this in you and gave you the light. Now you must choose to live with your daughters as we will. We will let them go with me to their true knowledge, but know that with time they will become fairies." He did not answer her, but opened the book again and began to read aloud. The fairy laughed at first, but when the man continued reading, she began to scream. Then a circle of light formed around the three girls, and the ground shook beneath them. The wall that he had closed before cracked, and the fairy turned into a thread of smoke and flowed inside the crack until it disappeared. Then the wall was closed forever and has not been opened since that day. From that moment, the fairy did not appear again. As for the girls, they returned to their normal nature as humans, and nothing strange appeared on them after that. My dear viewers, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell button to receive everything that is